All right, so today we welcome to Global Citizenship Education Interview Series, Katrin Harvey. Katrin is the Chief Operating Officer at the Ban Ki-moon Center for Global Citizens in Vienna, Austria. She has over a decade's experience in sustainability, climate change, clean energy, and organizational management. Having led business development, strategic growth, and communications at an international non-profit organization for clean energy access, Katrin combines her academic backgrounds in language studies and international development to enhance the impact of SDGs-related projects, programs, and organizations. Katrin has managed projects in Africa, Asia, in partnership with the UN agencies, the European Union, and development agencies, where she put her focus on capacity building, market development, and public-private dialogue, sustainability in agri-food value chains, and in managing international knowledge exchange amongst experts in energy efficiency, energy regulation, and international law. A wonderful background. Thank you, Katrin, for joining a Global Citizenship Education Interview Series. It's a pleasure to have you here today.
Thank you so much, Emiliano. It's a joy to be with you, and I'm very excited for our conversation today.
Wonderful. And I must say, I love the background there. I can see valuable SDGs objectives and the wonderful logo of the Ban Ki-moon Center for Global Citizens. And I want to start this precious conversation with you with a straightforward question. And the question is, what is global citizenship and what is a global citizen?
Well, it's a straightforward question, but it's a very difficult thing to answer. It's very hard to define. But I would say a global citizen is somebody who understands that they exist in a world and amongst humans, and that they're part of the human race, and that everything they do, their rights, their duties and responsibilities transcends national borders. So I think a global citizen is somebody who understands that they're part of a bigger group of people, that they understand their own identity, they understand others, they live and act with empathy, they understand what is needed in the 21st century in terms of their skills, and they have the right values to really bring the world towards a better place, and hopefully in a world where the SDGs are a reality very, very soon.
Right. And there is often this connection between SDGs, global citizenship, and what does it mean to be a global citizen. And this is often related to, at least as it develops in this interview series on global citizenship education, is often related to the life journey of our guests here. And so this ties nicely, I believe, with my second question to you. And the question is, how is the notion of global citizenship and global citizen related to your journey of life?
Well, where do I start? At birth? Well, I do have a dual citizenship. So I'm Austrian American. My father is from the US. My mother is Austrian. So I've always grown up with the two cultures inside me. Anyway, right. I've grown up in a Austrian region where we had lots of tourists. So there was very early exposure to people from all over the world, different languages, cultures, ideas, religions. So I think that kind of left a mark on my early childhood development. I was very lucky to go to a school that paid a lot of attention of paying back to society. So there was a lot of social projects, donations, and activities that taught us how to feel as part of a bigger world. And then when I entered university, I did follow a path that included a lot of learnings about other countries, about regions, about development, and stories of people that have different backgrounds than me and had less luck than me in terms of where they were born and what skin color they had, what languages they learned. So that was how I got into this ever more involved and professionally engaged in working as a global citizen myself, and then hopefully adding more global citizens, or helping people understand that they are global citizens as I move forward with the people that I encounter. So it's really great to see that I have been lucky enough to be able to choose this path for myself and to really act on the values and my skills that I have been able to gain in the last 40 years.
Right. And it's incredible that this journey of life, in a way, led you to work with the Ban Ki-moon Center for Global Citizens. Is amazing, isn't it?
Yes, it's been a journey of fortunate circumstances. So whenever I do, I'm very bad in terms of planning my life. I'm very good at planning for the organization and organizing things professionally, but for my life, I don't do really well in planning everything. But it's been it's a lot of serendipity as well. It's not who the people you are that you meet, who do you have your classes with in university, how do you engage, and then really just jumping at opportunities and saying yes to opportunities, even though they might not seem perfect from the very start.
Right.
But at least taking the chance and learning from whatever you do to apply to your next job.
Yeah.
So I started my career in tourism. I was working with youth groups from the US traveling through Europe, which was very intense and hard work, but it taught me a lot of organizational skills, and it taught me how to, help young people, youth, teenagers who definitely have other things in mind than learning about ancient history and churches and cathedrals in Europe, to still value that in that learning. And so that was my first job in a sense. And I was at a sports festival for young kids. So there was a different kind of engagement between the different countries and the nations. They were competing against each other. But then in the evenings, there was parties, and there was, there was friendships formed across the nations.
Right.
And then I got lucky to have a job in the Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency Partnership, where I started very down at the bottom of the ladder as an assistant, but I was able to work my way up and to apply all of these skills that were useful, and then learn as I go about this very new world back then to me about renewables and energy efficiency and energy access. Was all very new, but you suck it up and then you use it and you build something of your own. And so in the end, I then ended up that's maybe a little bit badly formulated, but then I got this opportunity to join the Ban Ki-moon Center, where I saw all of this come together. And in an area where we work very much on empowering the future leaders that we need, that lead with a global citizenship mindset. And we specifically focus on young people and women, which is, often people that are mostly overlooked when it comes to leadership roles in any kind.
Yeah, I think you're doing a great job. I was kind of examining your website. Besides, I have to congratulate you because there is a women leadership, a huge women leadership in the center, which makes great value. So no wonder why the center is doing great things.
Thank you. We do have a fantastic team here, and it's really inspiring. I'm very, very glad to be part of this. We've gotten better. So we have a few more men now in our team. So we have 3 men at the moment, which is exciting. But the people that come here, we are privileged enough that we are under the leadership of the former Secretary General. So we attract very cool people who want to work for us and with us, and they're extremely passionate, and there's so much love for the work and for the people, and so much ideology behind it as well. Like, they really, really care for what they do. We all do, and we really want to see that impact, and we believe that a world that is led by global citizens who understand what is needed to have a sustainable world that actually survives and that overcomes climate crisis and that overcomes poverty and hunger crisis. That is really what we're working for, and we all understand this, and we are pulling in the same direction together.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I'd like to ask you, what are your current and forthcoming projects at the Ban Ki-moon Center for Global Citizens? I know you're working on a big variety of projects, but if you can share a couple of core projects with our audience, that would be great, so that everyone can better understand the mission of the center, and perhaps, of course, get involved with the projects that you are advancing.
I'd love to. I mean, this is something where people always try to make me stop talking, and finally somebody is asking me to talk about it. No, so we have, as I said, we have this whole idea of a future that is led by people who believe in the Sustainable Development Goals, who understand that they need to be a reality, who are global citizens. And we want to do this, and we saw a lack of leadership at the current level of leaders, where often there are decision makers in place, and unfortunately getting more and more the case in some countries, especially, where leaders do not act as global citizens and they do not make their decisions based on global citizen values. So we work on with the global leaders a lot with advocacy programs, where again, thankfully, we have this access to leaders through our co-chairs, who's the former Secretary General of the UN, and we have a former President of the Republic of Austria. We have an amazing board that actually help us get this access. So we have advocacy programs where we specifically talk about very concrete projects and ideas and topics that need further attention. So we have one huge program on elevating agricultural adaptation to climate change. There, our big goal is to increase financial commitments from donor governments towards helping recipient countries, especially in the global south, adapt to climate change, especially in the agricultural sector. So it's really about basically global fundraising in a sense. We see at the moment in climate change, if you're familiar with it, there is a lot of discussions on how to finance and who finances what and where. And there's this goal that we should be, there should be $100 billion a year available to work on climate change. And it should be split between mitigation, so stopping it, and adaptation is like getting used to it. At the moment, the split is not happening at all. We're not getting towards the 100 billion anyways, and even that split is completely off the charts. So we want to get adaptation more into the center of that conversation. So that's the work with the leaders. We also work with the government of Austria on their internal national implementation of the SDGs, where we are very happy to be able to support the dialogue within the countries across the different sectors. So to get academia, civil society, government, the businesses together to discuss how SDGs can be even more successfully implemented in the state of Austria. And then we have one large advocacy program on global citizenship education called Mission 4.7, where we are partnering with a huge list of organizations and institutions, including UNESCO, including the Vatican, the Sustainable Development Solutions Network, where we are pushing for global citizenship education in curricula. So that's the current leader one. Right.
Let's expand a little bit on this last project on global citizenship education, considering that this interview series focuses on the topic. What are 2 or 3 main objectives of this project? And if you can expand and perhaps share a couple of experiences as you advance in this project on global citizenship education.
So I want to clarify, it's not our project. We're part of a campaign.
You're part of it, yes.
Yes. So there are certain goals. So we have, there's some guiding principles that we've developed, and they're on mission4.7.org. You can see the different guiding principles of what we want to achieve. But it includes integration of global citizenship education in national curricula in formal learning environments, so kindergarten to grade 12 and beyond. So, and we do have a couple of very cool samples and success stories of governments who've been able to do it. So the Italian government has been quite good in implementing climate change education into their curricula. The Greek government is doing fantastic things on global citizenship education, including 21st century skills, and really they revamped their entire educational program quite recently. It's amazing what they've been doing. But they're actually also outside of the EU. There's Turkey has been a leader, Ghana has been a leader, Morocco. So we're trying to build and collect these case studies and share it so that people can learn from each other. Then there's some of the partners are developing concrete learning materials for teachers in all kinds of levels that they can use and teach about the Sustainable Development Goals, about global citizenship, about climate change. And then I think they're also still right now working on a larger scale training module for teachers, especially to learn how to teach these topics in their schools. So that's what Mission 4.7, there's some examples of what they've been doing. There's a lot of global advocacy going on around it. So there will be an event at the Transforming Education Summit on the 19th of September, where we talk about global citizenship education and so forth, with different kinds of activities where we just want to bring the topic to the table, have the conversation, and again, facilitate this conversation as well.
Do you feel in your position and based on the projects that you're developing that internationally the interest in the topic of global citizenship education is growing, or there are some challenges? Just your personal perception based on the projects that you're advancing and the people you are in touch with.
Full disclosure, it's not my portfolio. At the center. I'm more on the
no, sure. But
yes,
in general,
yes,
I was curious to learn your perspective.
We do have, there are some competing concepts, right? So we have different topics that sound similar, that are but different, and so there is a little bit of a issue, my personal opinion, a bit of an issue of defining what you're talking about. So we'll have education for sustainable development, we have transformative education, we have global citizenship education. They're all same but different. So it's a little bit this needs to be better defined, the different parts of it, to really make sure that we can get to this point. I see global citizenship as such, but the concept is becoming more of a concept around the world, and it's becoming more interesting and learn. Like we have this dichotomy of, then again, on the other hand, we have the autocratic governments that are more like thinking in international terms, and me first, and I'm not gonna say it, but my country first. I don't care about the rest of the world. We hear that governments are slashing their development assistance. So it's this dichotomy between, we want to be global citizens, we should be global citizens. Look at how we are already like in a global community, and then this counterpart of the more nationalistic thinking. So that's, I think, more of the thing. But if I want to go back to the projects that we do at the center, beyond the advocacy, or as a counterpart to this advocacy high-level leaders engagement, we do work very concretely on global citizenship education or training with the future leaders that we were able to identify. So we do have programs where we're working with young people and young women, preferably, and have training activities and programs that help them identify as a global citizen. There's always a learning component, there's actual knowledge sharing with it, a bit of an academic training at some point, and then apply that knowledge in a 6 months implementation period, where all of our scholars, mentees, fellows, different programs have different names for their cohorts, have to take what they've learned and identify it as something they can do something about.
Taking action,
they take action, yes.
The action element is very important in global citizenship education, for sure.
Exactly. So this is the SDG micro projects that they all have to do, and we are immensely proud that we were able to join them on this journey as they become these activists almost, where they identify the problem, they found a solution, and they did something in 6 months. We've had 200 in the last 4 years, so they have 6 months of implementation period, but in the last 4 years since we've been around, we've had 206 people that we worked with who have in turn, through their actions, reached 760,000 people through whatever they did in their micro projects, and we leave them absolute free hand of what they want to do. It's everything from very grassroots, building vertical gardens in slum dwellings in Nairobi, to storytelling classes for bloggers in Cambodia. It's across the board, whatever they feel like they can do, let them do it, and we support We help them develop the program, the projects, think it through. How do I write a proposal? How do I write a report? How do I do fundraising? We try to give them incentive speakers on a particular topic, that we ask them, what do you need? So we don't just like tell them that this is what you have to learn right now, but tell us what you need, and we'll get you somebody who can,
help
show
you
how
and
to build a
support you in
budget.
the process.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's a really important component of kind of trying to transfer actions in society as well, in terms of one of the challenges of, theoretically speaking, at least as of global citizenship education, is this bridging the concept, the principles and the values and the knowledge, of course, into reality.
Exactly.
And I want to ask you, based on this lovely and precious conversation we are having, a last question, and perhaps one of the most important in this first step in our conversation on global citizenship education. And the question is, how would you define global citizenship using 3 keywords, and why these 3 keywords? And I know this is always a challenging question for our guest here at Global Citizenship Education Interview Series, but I think it's very, very important to sort of have some of the core principles based on our guest experiences and their vision.
Well, I mean, you kind of foreshadowed it, because one of my 3 words is action.
Action. Okay.
I would say it's empathy, understanding, and action. So it's the feeling, it's the brain, and it's your hands doing something about whatever you see if there's an issue. So I believe you have to learn all the time, and have to expand your knowledge about other people, about other situations, about countries, and the world around you. I think you really have, as a global citizen, it's one of your duties to continuously learn about what is happening in the world, to pay attention, to question information, to be, critical in terms of what you're consuming as information. So building your knowledge at all times, learning constantly, that's, I think, one of the big things. And it doesn't mean you have to be learn and understand all the most complicated philosophical concepts and economic theories. It's really just understanding the world and how it works, and how other people live in this world. So that's this understanding. The empathy is really this feeling of connection with the people you work with the people you don't even know, people on the other end of the world, understanding that you are one human race, and that everything I do affects everybody else. And this goes, I mean, it comes up again and again, empathy, love, connection, all of these things. It's comes in many concepts around the world, and in religions and whatever, but it's true. You have to understand that you're talking to a human, and nobody is worth more or less than the other. So that's the empathy part. And then once you have that knowledge and this feeling part, you want to do something. Doesn't necessarily, again, not everybody can go out and has the time and the resources to do huge projects, but taking action as in where I can. And that can be small things like recycling, do your recycling properly, don't waste food, pay attention of where your clothes come from. These are little actions in your daily life that don't cost you anything, and that can already have a huge effect if we do it together as humanity.
Absolutely. So to summarize, we have action, empathy,
and understanding.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Yeah, I'm very happy that you emphasize in our conversation today the action element. Very, very important, really, to translate this very important notion of global citizenship and global citizenship education into actions for the local community and the global community. Exactly. So I really want to thank Katrin Harvey, who is currently Chief Operating Officer at the Ban Ki-moon Center for Global Citizens in Vienna, in Austria, for joining Global Citizenship Education Interview Series. It is a pleasure. It was a lovely conversation. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Emiliano. It's an honor to be part of this conversation.